Yeah, hope everybody's having a good summer. Certainly you guys know that the summer's a crucial time for college basketball. First and foremost, developing the team, and with new faces, that's been the main focus for us is, getting these guys assimilated, getting our team together, starting to build foundation for the things that we're going to do on the court, the way that we're going to approach things. So that's we've been hard at work. There's obviously a major recruiting component in the summertime. This has always been. So the staff has been, committed and focused on a day-to-day basis and a week-to-week basis on those two things. And we'll continue with this group. I think this is week. We've been together for about a month. We started a little bit later than normal, given the transfer portal and how that stuff's starting to go, and then we'll finish at the end of this month, give them a 2-week break, and we'll bring them back a week early. So we'll kind of use that last week of our summer, the week before school starts. So that's kind of been our approach, and excited to be on the court with these guys working, and excited to keep improving on a day-to-day basis.
Questions for Coach? Chad?
Last year it was obviously retention with so many guys coming back. This year, almost an entirely new roster. How much different is the summer for a coaching staff when you're trying to figure out everybody's strengths and weaknesses and how they fit together?
In some ways it is, some ways it's not. I mean, again, I think there's a huge premium on connecting this group as a group. So can we do that in our training? Can we do it on the floor? Can we do that with experiences outside of basketball? Can we do that with just making individual efforts to spend time in one-on-one situations or small groups? That's something we've been very intentional about and been very clear to the players about, that we all have to be invested in that. I think that's important always, but with new faces, that's maybe feels more important. And then, as you mentioned, getting them on the floor, we're setting some foundation for certain aspects, certainly approach and standard, but also some style of play stuff. But then there is an element, to totally answer your question, where you're letting them play and you're letting them figure themselves out a little bit, and we're trying to learn them, and we're trying to learn things they do naturally without coaching. There may be something about a player. We get to a deep process in recruiting to try to understand a player and have a plan for a player. But when you get them on the court every day, there may be something that they do that you were unaware of, or something they're really good at that they've developed in a short period of time. And I think the summertime's always been an opportunity to learn those things as a coach. Like, let's not provide so much structure that we miss the opportunity to let a guy grow a little bit or learn a little bit about a guy in a way that we didn't know. So there's an element of that for sure.
Tell me about April as a coach. You get to where you might have 3 or 4 guys on your roster because of the portal. Within a month, you've got a whole new team. Is that exhilarating, frustrating, exciting, all those things?
College basketball's changed. It's changed in significant ways over the last 3 or 4 years, and one of the things that's changed significantly is the spring, is the period after the season ends. It's just a completely different time period than it was 3 or 4 years ago. For us, it's not about evaluating what it is or what it's not. It's about figuring out how to win that period in time. I thought our staff did an excellent job of identifying the right types of players to put a roster together and recruiting those players and finding a way to piece it together, not just get talent in Big 12 talent, but to piece together a group that makes sense on paper. And then now the fun part for coaching is getting them out here together and making that all come to life.
You mentioned style of play with all the new personnel, and especially on offense. Are there things that you plan to be able to do that you couldn't do before, or is it more of running the same set, same offense, but now it's just a better fit, so it should work better?
I think offensively there's a lot of versatility with this team. You look out, and you see so many different skill sets and areas that you could play through. There's ways to play back to the basket. Not just to throw it to score it, but to play offense from a back to the basket situation. And you look at multiple guys on this roster that can catch it back to the basket or catch it in the post area, and that we can score it or play offense from that spot on the floor. There's multiple guys that can play in pick and roll action or dribble handoff action, or what we would call like on-ball screening action. And not just with the ball, but there's rolling threats, there's popping threats, and then there's decision making. And so I think there's multiple guys you can do stuff like that with. And then there's some guys that you can screen off the ball for that create a lot of attention because of their ability to shoot and their ability to make decisions in those areas. And then some screeners, right? Some good size and guys that know how to play and shape up off of a screen. So there's a lot of different areas you could go offensively with this group. It's not limited. I think what we're trying to do is work through a lot of those things this summer. Again, we're trying to learn the team. And then, how much we invest in some of those buckets, will kind of evolve here over time. Again, the summer's not the time to do, we're 100% going this direction, but certainly there's a foundation for the style we're going to play. But the intricacies within that's what's fun. That's what's evolving throughout the summertime.
Marshall.
How's Tyler McKinley doing, and what do you want to see from him coming up the rest of this offseason?
It was great. He had about as good of a recovery from an injury like that as I've seen. And I haven't been around a lot of those, thank goodness, but like Bob Mangine, our trainer, one of the best I've ever seen in this business, he just kept praising how far ahead of schedule he was and how well his body was reacting. And I think we saw that from a coaching staff perspective, because as we were getting to the end of last season, he was starting to jump into skill work and do some stuff full speed, even if he wasn't live. He's had a good start to the summer. He had a little bit of a setback, not in a serious way, but just a little bit of a setback on that same leg, and I think it was scared him more than anything. So he's been limited with contact here the last couple weeks, but it was a non-serious injury, just a bruise, to be honest. And so we're kind of progressing him back slowly again, but that's normal. I mean, you come back from a major injury, usually there's some moment that's a little bit scary and it's okay, and then you keep progressing, and that's kind of what's happened with Tyler. He's dropped a lot of weight here the last 3 or 4 weeks, which is a credit to his work ethic. Weight's the wrong word. We want him lean and we want him athletic. And he's made a commitment with Mike Rayfeld to try to do that over the last month, and we've seen a big improvement there. Like his numbers in terms of his body fat percentage and things of that nature have skyrocketed in a good way. So he's having a really good summer, and I think he'll be back playing live basketball within the next 7 to 10 days.
Chad and Austin.
As a coach, you've always put a premium on defense. What was it about Buck Harris, watching him at West Virginia, seeing him on tape, that when he became available in the transfer portal, you said this is a guy that we need to jump on?
Yeah, you guys, I think this is human nature, and you see this across the country. You're doing a lot of evaluating in the springtime on tape, right, on film, and the technology in today's world. You can find film at players all over the world, and it's high-quality film. I think when you have the ability to evaluate in person, it gives you a different level of confidence. Like, technology matters, but seeing somebody live in person, I think, still has a lot of value. So what we're doing right now in the summertime has tremendous value, being able to evaluate on the ground live. I say all that because when you coach against somebody, and you can see a lot of coaches are coaching players that they got in the portal now that they've coached against, you get a really good sense of not just their ability, but what they're about. You get that sense during the game, and we've coached against, we call Sincere Buck, so you guys will get used to that, but we coached against Buck 2 times last year, and he's a terrific competitor. I think he was the only player in the Big 12 that was selected to the all-defensive team last year that was a perimeter player. So I think all the other guys were front court players, and I think he's one of the elite defensive players and elite competitors of all the college basketball at any position. And that wasn't just something we saw on tape, it was something we experienced live. And the way that he impacted the guys that he defended and impacted defensive possessions in our game was different than anybody else we faced last year. And so he's a young man from Canton, Ohio, so that's neat to have some local roots. We recruited him in high school, and so there was some relationship there. And beyond that, I think he represents not just the defensive side, but some of the competitive edge and the fire that I think we all value and resonate, here at Cincinnati. And so I think he'll be a guy that people will connect to by how he kind of approaches it in live play.
Awesome.
Hey, Wes.
Patrick.
Talking about, the new transfers that are coming in this year, obviously you still have, Day coming back, Tyler that you mentioned, Jizzle. What's the importance for you of them being here, sort of taking on, a more hyper, leadership role with all you guys?
The 4 returning guys that might have been like something strange, 5 to 6 years ago. It's not a bad number in today's college basketball, right? That's actually means you have some returning players, and I think we have 2 returning guards, 2 returning starters. I don't think there's many people in college basketball that return, 2 starters off of last year's team, certainly at this level. So, those are guys in Jizzle and Dede that have both played significant minutes for 2 years in the Big 12. They understand what the mission is on a day-to-day basis here in big picture, and they'll both be in roles of leadership that's important to this team. I think Dede's a guy, not just because of how long he's been here, but his age, right? I mean, this time last year, we didn't think Dede would be back another year until some rules changed. But he's an older player. He already had a very strong leadership role within our team. I think his leadership's tremendously important to this team. And certainly his play is important, but he'll have a greater purpose this year. And I think he's very well aware of that. And making sure that he continues to grow within that type of a role. Again, a returning player, a 2-year Big 12 player, and somebody that's older and is about all the right stuff. I think that'll be important for our team's development over the course of the year. And then you mentioned Halveen and Tyler, so 2 young players that both different because of Tyler's injury, but both have promising futures. And Halveen's development within the 8 months he's been here has been significant. I mean, we were joking about it the other day. He had struggled to dunk when he got here last September or late August, and now he's an explosive player, whether it's rebounding or finishing. So his basketball development, his physical development's been significant, and I think being at Cincinnati's helped him in a lot of ways. It's good to have him as a returner, Tyler as well.
What kind of beneficial factors did Corey Evans in the general manager role bring this offseason compared to what I'm sure was an even heavier workload on the entire staff last offseason?
Yeah, I think, again, we've talked about how much college basketball has evolved and changed in a very, very short period of time. Maybe more than, I can't speak to other sports leagues or other sports, but I can't imagine there's a time in basketball that there's ever been this type of change in this short a period of time. So we have to keep evolving as leaders, as coaches, and I think as we look at our staff and how it's structured and what responsibilities there are, like we have to keep evolving as the game evolves, or we're going to get left behind. A lot of people have addressed the general manager role. I think the title can be very misleading program to program. I think there's some programs out there that have done that, but don't necessarily have a plan for what that means and how that works. Generally in professional sports, a general manager hires the coach, right, and hires everybody else within the program and answers to an owner or a president. There's a hierarchy to that position in professional sports. That's not necessarily the case yet. Maybe we'll head there one day. Who knows where we're going? But That's not the case. So you see coaches right now who are more or less CEOs of basketball programs hiring a general manager position. So I think the term can be misleading, and how it's interpreted by the media can be misleading. I can't speak to what other schools are doing. What I can tell you about Corey's position is Corey and I have had a relationship for over a decade that began when he was doing grassroots scouting as a youngster, as a college student, and was doing about as good of a job scouting as anybody that I witnessed in my time in coaching. And he rose up quick and, rose up into rivals and some other things, and then was recognized by Sam Presti and spent 5 years with the Oklahoma City Thunder. So we've had a extremely long relationship professionally that turned into a friendship over time. And as we discussed this role, we didn't just say, hey, come be the general manager. We discussed over months what that would look like, how we would carve that role out in the short term for Cincinnati basketball, and how that could continue to evolve over time. I'm grateful for, John Cunningham and our administration for seeing a vision and the willingness to continue to evolve and allowing that to happen. And, in the short term, Corey really just dove in, and he has a tremendous amount of knowledge and intel. Think about the role that he was in Oklahoma City and what he was doing scouting and the relationships he has all over the world at every level of basketball. So he was able to give us a ton of intel. He worked under Sam Presti, who's arguably the best general manager in sports. So as we were piecing together the roster, and we were talking about how parts fit together and strategies to build a roster, I thought he brought great insight and great perspective into that conversation. He had great relationships already with our other staff members before he took the job, so it was kind of a seamless transition in terms of relationships and the ability to coexist and work together. And I think as we got the roster set, which was primarily the area he was working with our program on, he's now evolving into other areas of player personnel and organization and relationship building out in the world. And it's really important, he's out in Vegas for NBA Summer League all week. It's really, really important that somebody is out and about. Think about all the roster turnover there is in college athletics. And, he's interacting with the stakeholders in not just college, but in basketball. And he doesn't have the coaching responsibility. So I think those are just some of the areas that he's starting to dive into. There's a bigger and broader plan that will continue to evolve. But what I will say, it's been a great hire to date because he's selfless. He's all about the team and the mission, and he's provided a perspective that's so much different than a coaching perspective. And he's integrated very well with some of the previous relationships with myself and our staff.
You saw Chom, I'm sorry. You saw Chom a handful of times last year. At his age, potentially, could he be maybe UC's best center? That's saying a lot. And then how important is it to have Coach Njai as a big man coach too?
Yeah, so, I think with Mustafa, I think the ability, the raw ability, the raw talent is at a very, very high level. And I mean this with the greatest amount of respect. He's not even close to what he's capable of being as a player. I think it's our job as a staff and my job as the head coach to maximize what he can do in a short period of time. So I've told him this. I'm going to be very demanding of him. I'm going to coach him extremely hard, and that's the greatest respect I could give a young player because, again, he has an extremely high ceiling. But in terms of where he fits within, I'm not getting into any of that. Let's just go to work and get better today. And he's a tremendous kid that's motivated, intelligent, coachable, but we're going to push him probably harder than he's ever been pushed in his life. He's ready for that. And I think he's got a very high ceiling. We got to bring the most out of him.
Coach, you mentioned Sincere a couple minutes ago. You got to coach a guy like John Newman, saw the tough, gritty, physical kind of defender John was. Do you kind of see that resemblance with Sincere after watching everything on tape?
It's not always fair to players to compare each other. But what I've told Buck to me and to our program, but what I've told Buck is that, I coached a guy, John Newman, who you guys all know well, that just had so much impact on a defensive possession. And I coached a guy named Wes Miller that played for me at my previous school I coached at that had so much impact on a defensive possession. Buck's a guy that is in that realm of the impact that he has. And the goal isn't just to recruit that and throw it out there. It's like, how much better can we create that impact, over the next 2-3 months? So when we take the court, he's at an even higher level. He's all defensive. He's already at an elite level. Can we help him make even a greater impact in that area that he's already impactful? And then, I think what's not unfair to Buck is that we always talk about what he does defensively. I mean, he's got some offensive game too. He's been really good in the open court this summer. He's been very aggressive attacking the basket. His jump shot continues to improve. He's shooting it with more confidence. And man, he's just got a competitive edge. So I don't want to label him as just a one-sided player. Like, he's got a lot more to give than that.
Kirk Risa, Baba Miller, Mustafa Tiam, there's a clear international influence on this roster. Was there any conscious decision that went into that? Is that just a part of Corey's world-ranging ability to see talent everywhere, or was it just coincidence?
Yeah, and I want to be clear, and this is actually the opposite of a knock on Corey. Corey didn't put the roster together. He was just a part of the process with our staff. And again, that's that general manager role. It could be viewed differently in different places. Like, he didn't come in here and recruit a whole roster and make every decision. Decisions were still made at the top. Like, the decisions stop with me. If somebody's not good this year, it's not Corey's fault. I made the decision. Our staff still recruited at a high level. Corey was just a part of the process. So I want to make sure that's clear. Sometimes, again, that's a new position, a new title, and I don't know how it's thought of other places. At Cincinnati, it's not thought of as the decision maker. It's another member of the team that provides a different perspective. I say all that to say that no, I don't think it's like we didn't sit there and say, hey, we're going to just try to go straight international. Like, we don't believe in American-born players. Right? And, by the way, let's see here. Sean Abayev, right? Has Israeli passport. He's born in Israel, but he doesn't remember living in Israel. So he's about as much of a South Florida kid as you'll ever meet.
I didn't include him in there.
Right. So, but I think for us, the idea is to find the guys that fit Cincinnati basketball in the best way, that also piece together as a team based on what our needs are when we're putting a roster together. And we live in a global world now. We'll go wherever we have to go in the world to find those people. If they're in our backyard, that's excellent. If they're in, Antarctica, we'll go there. So it's not like we're looking at an area internationally is the hub for our recruiting. It's always been recruit the backyard first, recruit areas where you have connections and relationships, but go anywhere you have to go to find the right people.
Baba Miller seems like a pretty unique player. How do you go about finding a fit for a guy that looks like he can play multiple positions so easily?
Yeah, it just felt like we felt like he connected the roster in a lot of ways. In the sense that he can play multiple positions, he can defend multiple positions, he can do multiple things offensively. So just the lineup versatility that you could have with him, allows you to play different combinations and different groups together. Again, as you're putting things together on paper, that made a ton of sense to us behind the scenes. And as we've gotten him, that only appears to be true, right? He's very skilled. He's pushing 7 feet. He's not a traditional post player in any way. I wouldn't call him a physical post player. So if our fans are expecting that, let me tell you, you need to think about him as a versatile, perimeter-oriented player, but he is 7 feet tall with a evolving skill set. And I think he'll continue to, he's been He's been really consistent with his work ethic, and I think his skill set will continue to improve, and it was already good last year at Florida Atlantic.
Last couple, Ryan and Chad.
Sean Abayev is a guy that comes in with a lot of hype and buzz given his recruiting rankings. As a coach, how do you temper those expectations, and what does your vision look like for both him and Keyshawn this offseason heading into year one?
Well, I have great expectations. I'm not tempering expectations. I have great expectations for both of them. I mean, you're talking about guys we recruited over a long period of time that we signed in the early period. There's expectations. And I think that the first thing that Sean and Keyshawn would say is they want those expectations. What I've been really, and this is today, and if it doesn't continue, it doesn't matter what I say, but today, you know, you wouldn't know that Sean was a McDonald's All-American or he was the 500th ranked player in the class because of the way he walked through the door. He's walked in humble. He's been one of our hardest working players outside of practice, if not the hardest working player in the extra time. And I've been very impressed with somebody in his position, with his approach to date. Now, that has to continue, but I'd echo the exact same thing about Keyshawn Tillery. Humble, confident, and him and Sean may be the two hardest working players from the time we started till now in terms of the extra stuff. And that's not a knock on anybody else, but they have been that committed. It doesn't matter if they can't sustain it, but that's been pretty impressive. So their mentality coming through the door as young players has been different than most young players that I've dealt with in my 15 years.
2 returning starters, 6 guys in the transfer portal that played a lot of basketball last year, 2 highly ranked freshmen, 2 more guys in Tyler and Halveen that are looking to play a lot more. What's the challenge for a head coach when you look at a roster that's got 10, 11, 12 guys that expect to play?
Get them ready to get better today. Get ready to fight because we got work to do. And we're going to have a great year. And so let's go compete our butts off in that gym every day. Let's hold ourselves to the highest standard. And that's the challenge. That's my job. And that's what we'll walk out there and do every day. Outside of that, I don't know what else matters. So I don't know what you're getting at. It doesn't matter. I'll answer your questions, but the only thing that matters to me is that we go in that gym. That's our challenge. Our objective every day is 2 things. It's 1, to get better. And I don't say that lightly. Like that is and you're getting better as an individual, all of us, and you're getting better as a team. That's number 1. And number 2, we got to win the details every day. Now there's a lot that goes into that, but that's it. The challenge is to meet those objectives at the highest standard. That's my challenge as a coach. Outside of that, no, there ain't no challenges. We do those 2 things, we're going to be just fine.
Are you playing Georgia December 13th at State Farm Arena?
I don't think we've been able to release a lot of scheduling stuff yet. When we have contracts and things are finalized and we have the okay, we'll let you guys know. I can tell you this, Scott, I got other things that are way more important to me than trying to be coy about scheduling. So as soon as things are done, you guys will know. What I will tell you is that I think we're on track to have a competitive schedule, a schedule that allows you to build a NCAA tournament resume and a schedule that should get our players and fans excited for non-conference basketball and that also prepares us for the Big 12.
Thanks, Coach.